Hi, Riley. Hi, Anna. Hello, Olivia. Hello, Grace. Hey, Joseph. Hi, Anna. Here comes Caroline. All right, we'll get started in just a second. Hey, Anna. Hi, Nicole. Okay, Anna Yancey, got it. Hi, Tori. There's Tori connecting to the audio. Hi. And now she's connected. Hi, sweetie. Hi, Emma. Na-na-na-na-na. All right. That's enough of that. Hi, guys. Hi, Nina. Hello, Nina. There you go. Hey, Steph. Okay, so happy last day of new content. Okay. Tori, you got to experience that last semester for Riley and Nicole and Anna and Olivia and Anna and Caroline and Stephanie and Nina and Grace and Joseph and Emma. This is their last day of new content. So that's exciting. That's exciting. I think we're going to devote most of today to looking at the letter from Birmingham jail. Okay. Because to be quite frank, hi, Melanie. To be quite frank, guys, the civil rights movement, we covered that so much last year, right? I'm looking specifically at my kids from last year. Don't worry, Tori, Nina, Stephanie, Anna Y, Olivia. I'm sure you guys covered it too, but I know we certainly did in US. So why don't we first look at our note-taking guide and make sure that we've got all of the blanks filled in. Yeah? Okay. So if for some reason question number 1 on the AP exam, the one that's the argumentative essay, if it lists, I don't know, the Declaration of Independence, the, what? Okay. If it lists the Declaration of Independence and the letter from Birmingham jail and, I don't know, the Constitution, and you want to talk about the letter from Birmingham jail, you could also bring up any of these pieces of legislation that we bring up in this PowerPoint, okay? Hi, Sydney. Hey, Val. Hey, Aaron. Welcome. Alrighty, so are we good with the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act? Okay, I don't need to explain that. Great. Do you understand how you could bring that up if one of the FRQs asked about federalism? Yes? Because what was the ADA?
An unfunded mandate.
Good job, Riley. Very good. It was an unfunded mandate. Which one do states like? What kind of grants?
Block.
Very good. I see a few of you trying to answer at the same time. Nicely done. Yeah, they prefer block grants. Why?
They have more leeway. They knew
That's
they
right.
want.
That's right, Tori. They have the ability to spend the money how they want. I mean, if your parents come and give you $50, chances are, if there's no strings attached, you're going to be more excited than if it's $50 for gas. You know what I'm saying? Although, dang, you don't need $50 for gas anymore, do you? No. Guys, I paid $1.40 the other day. I know. I hope we don't have stock money in oil. I don't know. I'll have to ask my guy. Okay, so I'm glad we get that. We understand that concept of fiscal federalism. Are we good with the timeline? Because it gives us a couple other SCOTUS cases. Are we good with Dred Scott? Yeah, good. I'm going to bring up Dred Scott today in our foundational document discussion. Are we good with all the Reconstruction amendments? Because all of those are fair game. 13, 14, 15. Which one would you say is most likely to appear on your AP exam?
14.
14.
You're all correct. You're all correct. Yes, 1, 4. Which way? Which way? Very good. Chances are we're probably going to see the 14th Amendment. And why? Why am I saying we're more likely to see it than the other ones?
Because it also, not only is it like equal protection, but it also is the incorporation amendment too. So it's like
Very
double.
good. Very good, Nicole. So it gives us the equal protection clause. And which clause is it in the 14th Amendment that allows for the incorporation of the Bill of Rights to extend to the states?
Due process.
Booyah. Okay, good. So I'm so glad we get that. And then which case established the precedent for separate but equal?
Plessy versus Ferguson.
Very good. And what, hey, Autumn, what case will overturn Plessy versus Ferguson?
Brown versus Board.
Very nice. Okay, good. Good, 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 good. Do you guys understand affirmative action? Okay, everybody's heads are shaking yes, so that's wonderful. That makes me very happy. And do you guys understand why Brown versus Board of Education was so limited in what it could actually achieve? Yes? Okay, somebody, oh, nice sweatshirt, Auburn. Autumn. Somebody tell me why. Why was it, why was that decision implemented so slowly?
Isn't it because it mostly focused on schools? Because that was like the whole point of the case, was to get her to go to a white school.
Good point, Riley. Yeah, it alluded to other public institutions being integrated, but it really focused more on schools. So excellent. What's another reason?
It also didn't give like a specific time frame. It was just like as fast as possible, but it didn't. There, of course, the South is going to be like, oh, okay, we'll go fast because they don't want to desegregate. So.
Yeah, us Southerners tend to kind of move on a slower time frame anyway. If you guys have any friends from up north, we you know, tend to move a little slow. Very good. So with all deliberate speed, that's how soon it had to be implemented. I mean, what is that? Very good. There's another reason.
SCOTUS doesn't have any enforcing power whatsoever.
That is correct, Tori. What's the enforcement power that Congress has? What do they have the power of to get things done?
Legislation, also money.
Yeah, very good. With legislation, they can get things done, and they do have the power of the purse with money. Excellent. And what do we call that executive branch's power to enforce the law, to get things done?
The sword.
Yay, we're all right. That I was actually doing, it's not a sword, it's more of a lightsaber move for my Star Wars people out there. That's all I know. That's the extent of my knowledge, except Ewan McGregor. I know he was Obi-Wan in the newer ones. So, okay, and I'm done. So sad. That's all I got. Okay, good. So I'm very glad we get that. And of course, the letter from Birmingham Jail we'll discuss momentarily. All right, these two pieces of legislation. If the letter from Birmingham Jail is one of those documents mentioned in your argumentative essay, the one that you get a whole 25 minutes for, you can bring up either of these two pieces of federal legislation, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Do you guys understand the main points of both of those? Yeah? What was the main point of the Civil Rights Act? Get it into like one sentence for me. Oh. Civil Rights Act.
Just outlawed segregation.
Good. In public places. Can't do it. It included a few other things like no discrimination in employment and some other stuff, but very good. Yeah. no segregation in public places. Okay, so know that, you should be okay. And the Voting Rights Act, I wonder what it did.
No literacy tests.
Yeah, very specifically no literacy tests. You're right, Nicole. But it also ensured that no southern states could be pulling any crap. If they were, the federal government had agents that they could send in to ensure that the elections were being conducted appropriately. Very good, y'all. Okay, and then the chapter also talked a bit about the fight for women. Okay, which amendment should you be able to recall if the question is about women?
19th Amendment?
Yep, you're all right. Good job. Hey, Julius.
Hey.
As is Emma, as is Anna. Okay, so the 19th Amendment, women's suffrage. But in the 1960s, we saw a surge of feminism. Now, I haven't watched it yet. Have any of you guys tried out that Miss America show on Hulu? It's not about a beauty pageant. It's about Phyllis Schlafly. Guys, Phyllis Schlafly has her own show. I know. I mean, Dr. Webb has got to be beside herself. Oh, you know what? I'm going to text her right now and ask her if she has Hulu. Yeah. Text message Rhonda Webb. What do you want to say? Hey, exclamation point. Zooming with my AP Gov kids right now. They say hi, smiley face. Do you have Hulu by chance? Here's your message. Yeah, send it. So I want to chat with her and see if she's watched it. Okay. Yeah, it does look good. It does look good, Anna and Autumn. I think so too. When I have some time, you know, after May 11th, I'll watch it. But in 1960s, that's when we have the feminist movement, you know, Betty Friedan with the feminine mystique. And that's also when we see Title IX. So I know I've got female athletes out there. What? This is your jam, right? Title IX is very exciting for you because it means you get money being spent to you in an appropriate proportion, maybe not exactly equal, but pretty darn close to it. And then we also have the Equal Rights Amendment. Would you guys be able to talk about each of those a little bit? The ERA, could you talk about the ERA? Yeah. Okay. And why it still hasn't passed. I mean, the deadline, of course, but still coming back up. A lot of people are against it because women might lose some things that are geared more specifically towards them.
The D word.
Yeah. Oh, you'll have to tell Catherine the D word.
Yes. Yes. That was an interesting day.
That was an interesting day. Yeah.
That was such a good class.
It was a good class. It was a good class. So the draft could potentially be fair game all of a sudden. Maternity leave could potentially be gone. I mean, who knows? And things that aren't really as common today as they were back then, women not working hours, like late hours and things like that. Okay, did you guys get that strict scrutiny stuff? No. Okay. If there is a law passed that makes it illegal for some people to do it, but legal for other people to do it, sometimes it will be looked at with a more like strict eye. And that's usually if the law involves what categorizations, like what separations of people, what characteristics. Is it age?
Race.
Race, that's right. It's really race. It's not gender. It's not age, although Congress is aware of the gray power, which just, I mean, that puts me on the floor laughing, by the way. And sexual orientation is not given strict scrutiny. I don't know if maybe that's the next category that will be included along with race. We'll see. I think it would certainly be that group of more than women or age. Do you guys agree? So laws are just looked at a little bit more strictly and really diagnosed a bit more. You know, it's like if they look at the frog that they're diagnosing, they might, you know, look at the heart, make sure it's okay. But with strict scrutiny, they're looking at everything. Okay, like all of it, really digging deeper. Gross. Dissection. Did anybody miss a big dissection thing that you were supposed to do in class? Yeah, what were you guys supposed to do? Caroline?
In anatomy, we were supposed to do a cat dissection. I'm kind of okay that we're missing it.
Yeah, I would be too, especially if you're a cat person. Melanie, are you upset about the lack of cat dissection? I don't know if she's upset.
That's not a per cat dissection.
Oh no, Anna, you've got your kitty right there. Oh no. Yeah,
Closer.
puppy dissection. I'd have a real problem with that. I'm not. Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. What are you talking about in government today? Okay. And then I think the rest of it, just looking at other groups and struggles they faced, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You guys okay? Let's dive into our last foundational document. And boy, I saved the longest for the last, didn't I? Yeah, it took a while. Although you guys have read this before, yeah? You've read this before. Okay, I want to pull it up. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? No, that's it. All right, here. Show all windows. There, thank you. That's what I want. Okay, can you see that? Word document, fabulous. Okay. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Sorry, hang on. I want to make you guys bigger so I can see. Hang on. Wait for it. I know, this is a pain. I'm with you. There we go, that's what I wanted. All right, so I can see 8 of you, that works. Okay, so I would love to hear from every single person in here if I can. If your mic works, feel free to type it in the, if your mic doesn't work, type it in the chat. I'll click on the chat periodically. Nicole, it was your 4th time reading it, just as good as the first. That's wonderful. And Emma, you guys read it in AP Lang last year. Who was your teacher in AP Lang last year? I love Kirsten. She's the best. She's the best. Okay. Alrighty. So let's just dive right in, shall we? And we're just going to kind of do this how we normally do this by looking at where I've asked you questions in the box. Okay. All right. All right. So let's go for it. What were King's reasons? Oh, now it's not going to let me scroll down. Son of a disco biscuit. Wait. Now you will. That's what I thought. All right. What were King's reasons for being in Birmingham? Why was he even there?
Wasn't he invited by, hold on, I have it here. I know he was invited by the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights organization.
Correct. Correct. He was invited. Why are you here? Because I was invited. You're absolutely right. And Sydney agrees that it's also injustice and social ties. Why he's there. He's carrying the gospel of freedom to his hometown. Excellent. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Sydney. And how does he answer to the charge of being called an outsider?
One of his first main claims is that injustice in one place is injustice everywhere. So he kind of claims, he's saying everybody has to work together, nobody's an outsider when this is occurring. We all are being faced with the same issue. So nobody's really an outsider if everybody's included.
Good. I like that. Yeah, I like that. None of us is an outsider. Olivia agrees with you. No one within the United States can be an outsider. We're all in this together because injustice anywhere is a threat, like you said, Nicole, to justice everywhere. That's good. Good quote. And he works with all these affiliations. He's the founder of the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. It's Southern. Alabama, Birmingham, it's Southern, right? Okay, next. I don't know how to get rid of that. Okay. The bolded sentences above, so the one where you just quoted from Nicole, and also says, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. I mean, If my life depended on it, I could write like this, guys. So that represents one of his most famous quotes. What does that suggest about the role of the individual to addressing those injustices outside of where you live?
He's saying that, like, since he's saying it's everybody's individual responsibility to try and take action, because even if it's not impacting you at one point, first there's a moral obligation of why should you let this happen to somebody else, but also if you're going to look at it in a more personalized manner, it's going to come to you eventually if it continues to grow. So he's saying it's everybody's responsibility.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like if one person gets away with it, then others may feel that they're like allowed to also do it.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I mean, you know, if you're sitting at a red light forever and there's no cars coming anywhere from the other direction, and finally the car next to you just goes, you're all of a sudden emboldened. You're like, well, they went, I'm going to go too. Sure. And yeah, and if we allow it to exist in one place, chances are it's going to spread to you. I mean, people are everywhere, so justice can be threatened everywhere. And Grace mentioned it is up to the individual to help stand up to those injustices. You're right. You're absolutely right. Do you guys believe that King thinks one can be neutral or satisfy their moral obligation by simply not being the perpetrator of the wrong when injustices arise? What did y'all say about that?
He said that you couldn't, like, you can't be neutral, because if you're not doing anything, then it's almost like you're allowing it to happen. And even though you're not supporting it, you're also not stopping it. So technically, then you're put on the side of the perpetrators.
Okay, that's a good way to look at that. Absolutely, Anna. Riley, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say like the mutual thing, because he says that they're tied in an inescapable network of mutuality, and I think he just kind of means that, like, if you don't, like, no matter what you individually do, the outcome will affect everyone. So if you don't do anything to stop it, you're just as bad, I guess, as the people that are perpetrating the crimes.
Yes, absolutely. Well said, girls. Olivia agrees. No, you're standing by, allowing it to continue. And Autumn suggests that you are a bystander yourself, which Emma agrees. Very nice. All right, let's flip to the next set of questions. 2C. So what does this mean for us living in the United States of America today, folks? What?
I mean, basically, if some injustice starts to grow somewhere, you should still, even though this was written decades ago, it still applies, because no matter what, it's a known fact of life. It can change. If it continues to grow, it'll still exist, and you have to get rid of it.
You're absolutely right. You still must act. Anna says that we should all be involved in fixing these injustices. And way to use the Southern term fixing. I love it. I love it. And Melanie says our scope of who to help should have no bounds. Very good, everybody. Very good. Okay, so then King goes to talk about his nonviolent direct action, which, to be quite frank, is the entire purpose of this letter, is it not? The Southern white clergy wrote him this letter saying, I get why you're here, we get why you're doing this, but you got to slow your roll, man. You got to wait. Let it happen. Just let it happen. So what are the 4 basic steps, according to King, of nonviolent direct action?
Should we, like, take turns?
Sure, Anna, give me one.
All right, so he said the first one, what he said was to collect the facts to determine whether injustice exists. So I said that you need to research to see if there's actual injustice going on and that it's not empty claims.
Excellent. Okay, so step 1, you've got to actually determine if injustice is taking place. Very good. And Sydney, I'll come to your comment for number 2, and Grace for number 3, Sydney, and Grace for number 4. What's the second step of nonviolent direct action according to King?
The second one is negotiation. So he just kind of you want to attempt to do it with words first, and like do a diplomatic kind of this is our issue. Are you willing to help us out before you take any actual action against them and make tension?
Very good. Negotiating is important. Sadly, a lot of my negotiation in the last month and a half has been with a 4-year-old. And it takes its toll, people. It takes its toll. All righty. Let's see here. Sydney, you said self-purification. Can you elaborate on that, my dear? And good job, Olivia. Good job, Joseph. And Grace, would you also elaborate on direct action? Sydney said for self-purification to make sure you are ready and willing to do what's necessary. Yes, very good. Kind of like prepping for battle, right? Except not actual physical battle. This is going to be nonviolent. So that's a great way to look at that. And then Grace, what do you mean by direct action? Can you give us a few? I know you're typing, I'm sorry. Anybody else could give us an example as well? Grace is saying like taking action, marches and rallies. Yes, absolutely. Okay, good. So for each of those nonviolent direct action steps, King and his followers fulfilled those in Birmingham. Somebody tell me, how did he determine if injustice was present in Birmingham? What did he do?
Didn't he like talk with the leaders of Birmingham kind of to get an idea of what was happening?
Excellent. You're right, Riley. He did his research. He did. How about for number 2? What about any negotiations?
He tried to talk with the city leaders, but they didn't really want to talk to him at all. Like, they just kind of ignored him. And then he also tried to talk to economic leaders in the community, and they also kind of shut doors. They would say that they would do one thing, but then they would continuously, he said, break their promises. So
very good, very good. And Olivia's chiming in with boycotts. Yes, the boycotts will be used when the merchants that he's attempting to work with don't work with him. All righty. And then what about for self-purification, or maybe direct action is a better one. How did he utilize direct action in Birmingham? What did he and his followers do?
Well, for the self-purification, he did mention that everyone had to go through like workshops, and that they needed to be ready to like take the violence that people might dole out, and then they also needed to be able to be willing to be jailed for like what they were doing and what they believe.
Yeah, they're like purifying their mind and their bodies, getting ready for what they're going to do. Do any of you guys have any little rituals that you do on AP exam day, self-purification? No? I mean, I guess I might eat a really like fattening biscuit when
I am totally taking my exams with the pencil that Dr. Webb gave us last year. It says, "I believe in you."
Oh, she'll love that. I'll tell her. Oh, she'll be so excited. Okay, so, oh, and Autumn has that pencil. But yes, the nonviolent workshops, Grace agrees with you, Anna. You betcha. The sit-ins, the marches, the strong economic withdrawal programs, boycotts that Olivia mentioned, very good. What I kind of found interesting was how King said that negotiation was the purpose of direct action, which brings us into our next couple of questions. Yep. All right, so King is talking about constructive nonviolent tension. Nonviolent tension, what is that?
So he's basically saying that through the direct action, it's going to definitely create some tension between the two groups, obviously. And so it's going to be so disruptive to the majority that they're going to basically be forced to deal with the issue that they were just ignoring because they didn't have anything going against them at the time, but now they can't ignore it anymore. So the tension is basically going to lead to them finally allowing to compromise or
You're right.
fix the laws.
You're right, and that pretty much answers the next question. So this constructive nonviolence tension, it is nonviolent. But it does create this tension of the mind, this awkward situation with the people there. These folks who King are, what he said, living in a monologue rather than a dialogue. And so it gets to be so bad that you have no choice but to show up and negotiate, right? To hash it out. You were trying to avoid that. You didn't want to do it. You weren't willing to do it. But now the situation is so crappy that that's what you have to do. It forces those people to the negotiating table. Very good. All right, for number 6, this is where King gives that famous quote. For years now, I've heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has almost always meant never. We must come to see with one of our distinguished jurists that justice too long delayed is justice denied. And so there it is right there. So according to MLK, what's the problem with foregoing direct action until the broader public seems to be okay with the direct action? Why not do that?
Well, I think when he said the broader public, I think he was really addressing like the white moderate that he talks about later. And those people have never like been oppressed in the way that, you know, that the African Americans were being oppressed. And so they're never going to want to give something up voluntarily if it's going to and either not affect them or, you know, they're not benefiting from it. So why would they change anything?
Yeah. These folks are fine with the status quo, right? They're okay with the negative piece, that phrase that he uses later on. If you forego direct action until the broader public is okay with it, it's never going to happen, right? It's just not going to happen. Anna says he's saying that they'll tell him to push it back, and it never will happen. Remember, he brings up time later on. And the concept of time, how does King refer to it? What is time to him?
Neutral.
Neutral,
Yeah,
very
neutral.
good. Mythical, excellent, girls. And yeah, he says that this group of people, the white moderates, who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation, you say, wait, but we're watching lynch mobs, lynching our fathers and mothers, drowning our brothers and sisters, hate-filled police curse and kick and kill Black brothers and sisters. Whereas the Black people are in this airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society. So they can't wait. Can't wait anymore, right? Good. Let's see here. I think we already answered that one too. Okay. Ooh, so for the next little bit, King talks about everything that Black people are dealing with. Okay. And I really like this question. I think it's a good one. Can you guys contemplate the numerous injustices suffered? And can you give me any examples of how they compare to the freedoms or rights are guaranteed in the Bill of Rights? Did anything jump out at you?
Well, he didn't explicitly mention this, but the first thing I thought of was how like people that were reporting on the injustices that were going on, like often sometimes their houses got broken into. And I was thinking of the lawsuit, oh my gosh, of the commissioner, what was his name, in Alabama that sued the New York Times? Yeah, Sullivan.
Oh, yeah.
How things like that would happen where I think people would be trying to speak out, but then the majority would kind of try to suppress whatever was going on or sue in his case.
Yeah.
So, like freedom of press was like, and freedom of speech was kind of oppressed in that way.
Yes, absolutely. And King goes on to cite why he was arrested in Birmingham. Do you guys recall why?
Wasn't he parading illegally? He didn't ask for like a license or permission.
A permit. A permit. I got
there.
You. It is. There it is. And that also goes against what First Amendment freedom?
Right
Assembly.
to assemble.
Yeah. And of course, all of these things, they're being denied due process. All of these things. Okay. Very good. Okay. And next, the next thing that he does is he talks about just laws and unjust laws. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Just laws, man-made, but there's a balance between the moral law and the law of God. Unjust laws, they degrade humans, and segregation is a good example of one. So tell me, what does King say are the effects of segregation, y'all?
He says that it hurts and basically degrades degrades the moral standing of not only the people being segregated against, but everybody, because he said that it gives the majority, so in this case the whites, the false sense of superiority, as well as then the African Americans that are being segregated against are getting inferiority feelings about.
Yeah, it does. It creates an inferiority complex, a superiority complex, and it distorts the soul and damages the personality. I mean, that's so sad. That's so sad. He states that an individual who has been denied the ability to participate in the creation of law, but meets all the other criteria to be eligible to do so, can't be obligated to follow that law. What rationale does he use to make this assertion, folks?
He's basically saying, he talks about the right to vote.
Mhm.
And so, which in my mind immediately goes back to no taxation without representation. So he's bringing in his rights that were given, his rights that were given through the Bill of Rights plus the Declaration of Independence. And then he also mentions, alludes to the Supreme Court ruling of Brown versus Board of Education. So he brings in all of it.
Yeah, all of it. All of it. He brings it all in. I mean, this is what he's doing. He is making his case. He's saying to these people, stop, who are saying, stop, slow down, it'll happen. He's saying, here's why I cannot do that. Look at history. We have not written these laws. We were not elected. We can't even register to vote. It's not that we can't vote. You won't even let us register to try and vote, too. So these laws, they're double unjust. Okay. Okay. So King suggests that we can go about breaking the law in a way that expresses the highest respect for law if you do so openly, lovingly, and if you're willing to accept the consequence. And if you're doing that, then really you might be breaking the law, but in King's mind, he's actually expressing the highest respect for just laws and bothering and unhappy with unjust laws. Okay. All right, and in this one, he gives us a lot of historical examples of people who are breaking the laws that they feel are unjust. And I really like the section where he talked about what Hitler did that was legal. I thought that was pretty powerful. Okay, so why is it, Anna, you mentioned this earlier, that he finds the white moderates approach to be the most frustrating? Why is that, Pumpkins?
Because I think he feels like they seem to be more concerned with just like maintaining order than they are with actually getting justice.
Yeah, you're right, Riley. And that's called the negative piece, right? Maintaining order, not getting justice. Melanie says they have a shallow understanding of what they're going for. That's right. A lukewarm acceptance. In fact, he even calls them worse than the KKK, doesn't he? He says they're worse. He says they're the greatest stumbling block in his stride, because they'll say, I get what you're doing, but why are you doing it this way? Or I support your cause, but not your methods. Right?
Yeah, he really roasted him when he was like, yeah, lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that just I felt like he was really, really angry at him.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. You ask somebody to do something and they go, no. Okay, you know where you stand. You ask somebody to do something and they go, okay. Which is worse? I mean, they're not good. Anna, you're suggesting they're afraid of them bringing out tension. Yeah. And even though they might even realize that it exists, they just, it doesn't really affect them that much. Very good. Insightful. All right, let's continue. Okay, we already talked about the concept of time for King, how it's all mythical, because somebody just says, well, wait till another time. Well, what other time? What other time? If I say, oh, we'll talk about that later, guys. When? When later? I want to know. We talked about negative P's. Okay, why not? There's a few of us here. We can do this without getting into a fight. So the quote is, we will have to repent in this generation, not merely for the hateful words and actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people. Okay? Are there injustices in today's society about which people are silent?
I said yes. Because
Oh,
what I wrote on my paper, I specifically referred to the LGBT plus community because there are a lot of laws, like for example, they attempted to keep transgenders from going into the military, and then there's a bunch, especially in Tennessee right now, they are trying to restrict adoption rights for married LGBT couples. So, and a lot of people, while they're out there, a lot of people who aren't necessarily involved in that community, a lot of people are trying to just be silent about it and they're not really addressing the situation. So I do think that there are injustices that people aren't talking about because they're trying to ignore it.
good example, Nicole. Good. Anybody got another example?
Well, I feel like we talk about the silent majority a lot. I mean, I don't know how applicable it really is right now, especially since everyone seems to have an opinion about coronavirus. But I think it's definitely like a group of people who it seems to be a really large group that just kind of doesn't express themselves, and so it's interesting to see, like, we don't really know how that group of people will vote or how, like, where they stand. So I
Good.
think that's interesting.
I do too. I do too. And I'm glad you brought up our current situation because I'm sure that there's some people who could make the argument that there's a lot of injustice going on right now. There's a lot of people who are going to be out of work. There's a lot of businesses that are not going to reopen. And I mean, I'm not saying this is my opinion. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I mean, there's some people who are saying that this is exaggerated. And yet look at everything that's going on, poverty getting worse, the economy getting worse. And then of course there's people who are saying, this is a pandemic. People are sick, people are dying, stay at home. You have to sacrifice for a little bit. So I don't know. But those are good examples. Okay. How about number 11? I like this one. Why does King stress that the African-American people must be allowed to demonstrate? They have to be. It's nonviolent, it is disruptive, but they have to be allowed to do this. Why?
Because if they aren't allowed to do it non-violently, it'll end up becoming violent because everything will just get like pent up and then explode one day.
Yes. Yes. Have you guys ever had a fight with a friend that was put off for a while? Ever? Yeah. Had you unloaded a little bit at a time, maybe it would have been a little bit easier. But then since it all comes out at once, I mean, hopefully your fight didn't turn violent, but I imagine that the trunk of everything that you were holding in got opened and you just exploded. Like Anna said, a lot of repressed anger. I agree. This can happen. And what did King say is the alternative to their nonviolent protests?
He basically said that if, like, so we already talked about how if it'll get pent up and explode. So they're basically saying if you don't let us do it in a non-violent way right now and we're prevented continuously, eventually they'll end up becoming violent because there's no other option. So they can't do it peacefully. So they're going to take different means to get what they want.
That's right. That's right, Nicole. And he also says, well, if we don't get to do this, then people might turn to the Black nationalist way of thinking. And maybe the Black Power movement, maybe the Black Panther movement. I mean, he's essentially saying, this is the one you want, folks. Come on. Okay, we're going to skip creative extremist. And then on page 14, he really talks a lot about how disappointed he is in the church. A lot of disappointment in the church. So let's look at question 13. Why does King express such deep disappointment with the church as it relates to the African American struggle for social justice?
So he specifically points out that, and on my two questions, kind of, I didn't go and read B after, or read B after I read A, so A kind of answers B. Mm-hmm. But so originally he starts off with being like the Christian church was the new religion. And like, so they had to fight for their right to practice their religion and to exist and to be treated equal and to have their own practices and their own like civil rights. Mm-hmm. So he's disappointed that they, which were originally such an uplifting community and fighting for equality for everybody under the eyes of God, so therefore socially as well. And so he said he's very disappointed that they've become weak, and he also says that they're very influenced by society's opinions, so they're more concerned with their outward views instead of what their moral obligation and their religious obligation is.
Absolutely. They're focusing on maintaining their status quo. I like what you said about how they're going to be seen as weaker. They don't want to be a nonconformist, so they're neglecting their social responsibility. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So what does King warn about, folks, regarding the role of the church in the civil rights struggles? What does he claim could happen? And Nicole kind of touched on this.
He kind of, oh, you go first. I'm sorry.
Okay. He said that because they were he views them as being so hypocritical at the moment that eventually people will lose trust and eventually just stop following the church and move away from organized religion into more just spiritual connection.
Yeah. Lose men.
Yeah. And I mean, like, kind of along the lines, I feel like if people, like, I think King was sure that something was going to change eventually. And so maybe the younger generation was going to see their ideas about being really moderate as being like old school. And so people would not go to church as much. And then he said it was like they would just turn into social gatherings if there was no like concrete belief that they were following and standing on. So
yeah, they'll lose their authenticity, right? Their purpose will be gone. It's too deep in the murk. Look at this quote, y'all. But they have acted in the faith that right defeated is stronger than evil triumphant. What did he mean there?
I think it just means like it takes more to do what's like morally right and still kind of accept the fact that you might end up being defeated than it is for you to believe what's wrong and kind of like take like the easy way out, quote unquote, I guess is kind of what he's saying.
Yeah, I like that, Riley. I like that. Yeah, know that God is aware you're taking the bigger steps to right the wrong. so that good does prevail over evil. It's easier to sit back and do nothing, like Riley said, but you know, that's not going to win this thing. That's not in the column of what is right to do. So does King believe the civil rights effort will ultimately rise or fall depending on the role of the church, y'all?
He said
No,
yes.
he said it'll happen eventually.
He said it'll happen eventually.
Like it'll happen. It's just a matter, does the church want in, or does the church want to just sit back and do whatever?
I like that. You guys want in? You
Plus,
yes, it's gonna happen. Yeah.
Plus he was basically kind of saying like, what I read into it, he was, because he especially said organized religion versus spiritual connection. He kind of basically said, he was kind of calling them out because he was like saying the church is still technically man-made, so God is on our side, and history has shown repeatedly that eventually the rights will become, they will get what they want even without the church, because he specifically mentions right there slavery. And so just a bunch of, he lists like 4 examples, and he just keeps saying like, even though it took a lot of time, they still got what they wanted. So without the church, they have God and history. So
good. So don't you want to be on the winning side, church? Don't you want to look at the history books and say you did the right thing? Good. Okay, last but not least, why does King refuse to commend the actions of the police who are preserving order? Why does he refuse to do that?
instead of like protecting all people, which is their job when they sign up to be a police officer, I mean, he specifically mentions the dogs, just letting them stand there while unarmed, peacefully protesting, which is part of their Bill of Rights, given rights. They're basically standing there and letting people, they're basically abusing people who have done nothing wrong and are trying to take back what's rightfully theirs. So he's saying police officers that are supposed to be protecting us are doing the exact opposite and inflicting physical and emotional harm on us.
Yes. I mean, guys, what are some of the things that he says these police are preserving order by doing this?
Yeah, didn't he say they were like super aggressive in the jails with all the
Yeah.
people? And there were like women and older folks that were being starved or mocked or all those things. And it made me think about like they were maybe quote unquote preserving order when they were out in the public for everyone to see, but the second they were in the jails where there was no press and there were no like people watching, they would just do whatever.
Yeah. And I mean, you're right. Slapping and kicking old Negro men and young boys, pushing and cursing old Negro women and young Negro girls, refusing to give us food. Yeah, I mean, that's not something that's commendable, is it? So what is King's rationale? Oh, wait, I feel like we already did that one. Okay, so last but not least, let's end this thing. I know you're ready. Which ideals, freedoms, and or rights in the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence do you think supports his claim that the civil rights struggle is tied to the founding principle of this nation? Hang on, before you answer that. Keep in mind, that's how you could see 3 foundational documents together on FRQ1 on May the 11th. Now you can answer the question.
Okay, Ms. Etter, I'm ready.
Okay, bring it.
So I started off when I did kind of chronological. I said the Declaration of Independence, firstly, it's like the first thing it says is that all men are created equal. And then I already brought up earlier, I said no taxation without representation. So basically the founding principle that basically said us, we're leaving Great Britain, which created our country, they're now being denied, and they're trying to deny their own citizens a founding principle. And then it also says additionally, so the Bill of Rights in the Constitution was made to protect all people, which was specifically specified with the Reconstruction Amendments. In the 14th Amendment, I mean, the Equal Protection Clause is very clear.
It is very clear.
And then it's supposed to be forcing all states, including the South, to abide by the given rights in the entire Constitution to all people through the Due Process Clause. And then all the foundational rights. Oh, wait, that was it.
It was good. It was good. I was just going to let you keep going. Yeah, so connecting it to all men are created equal to go ahead and kick off this ball rolling. Tori, you mentioned John Locke. Would you expand on that?
The social contract. It's pretty
What
awesome.
is that?
Oh, it's when John Locke said that if your government's not doing a good job, you should overthrow it, or at least tell it very angrily that it's not doing a good job.
That's right. We could be like Woodrow Wilson and write 3 strongly worded letters. And I mean, is this not a strongly worded letter? It is.
Kind of like the Declaration of Independence was.
That it was. See? Okay, good, good. I'm glad we're making these connections. So I know that you've read this document before, but perhaps you haven't looked at it like a political scientist before. So maybe we have a new perspective. By the way, Dr. Webb says hi.
Oh my gosh. Hi, Dr. Webb.
I'll tell her you said hi. Okay, so everybody, that is the end of our new content. Okay, I know. Yes, trust me. I want to just jump up and down and cheer. I am so excited. You are so excited. So ready for your exam day. Okay. Do you guys look at our plan for review going forward?
I'm so excited to Zoom every day, Miss Etter.
Me too. I lost my mind this morning.
No, me too. Honestly.
Well, I'm glad the 3 of you are, and I'm guessing I'll probably see most of you. Here's my problem. I have 220 people who are signed up to take this exam.
That's a lot.
I need them to show up.
I also think it's
How
funny.
many of us are here right now?
14, 13, not including you. So
Oh,
Wait, no. Miss Etter, I noticed like on literally like our past like 3 Zooms, there have only been like 3 guys. It's all girls.
yeah.
I know.
yeah, where are all the guys?
I'll make Johnny come. He keeps
Yeah, make Johnny come. Tori, come on.
He
Okay.
video games. I need to tell him to hop off.
Well, okay, so well, you should. Which one did I say we're doing tomorrow? Is tomorrow Unit 1 review?
Yeah.
Tomorrow is,
Okay.
yes, Unit 1 review.
Okay. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow. And a lot of it will be like Q&A. You guys ask some questions. I'll give you some feedback and some answers. Did you happen to see that I posted a study guide?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
You
Yeah,
did
it looks
last
pretty great.
semester, Tori.
I can do
Oh my
it
gosh.
again.
You can do it again.
Freeds for human is like 15 pages every single term we've ever gone over. And I'm like, Freed, this is not, no, stop.
Yeah,
Stop
that's
it.
not. I get it. I get it. Melody had psych stuff today, so she couldn't make it. I get it.
Oh God, psych. Psych was so much reviewing for the AP exam.
Yeah,
but
I'm
I
sure
also
it
did
was.
the flashcard project, which was like 100 and something, like 120 terms.
Ooh.
That was
Well, I don't think we have to know 120 terms.
that's good.
Definitely 24 with our SCOTUS cases and our 9 foundational documents. But okay, so this is my plan. I need all of you guys. I'm going to post a practice FRQ this week. I need you to do it. Now, you don't have to submit it. And I've already gotten a couple from a few of you. I'm going to shoot you an email directly and ask if I can use the one you sent me for an example. I'll remove your names. And I'll be happy to do that with anybody else too. I'm trying to come up with some creative ways to maybe replace a bad FRQ grade or something. So, but next week,
Oh yeah, I could really use that.
I know you could, Tori. Next week, I'm going to do a timed one where I'll put it on Schoology and you have to submit it within a certain amount of time, just like on the actual day of. Does that sound good? I mean, I know it doesn't sound good, but hopefully it will be okay practice. All right. So that's it for today. Yes. I think this was productive for our folks who did not make it. You guys are just going to be way ahead of the curve than they are. All right, I'm going to leave you with some music from the band. Okay, it's a good one. And quite ominous sounding, isn't it? It's good stuff. I forget what that's called. What's the organ? It's an organ. Is that it? Not like, organs, like donors. All right, loves. Is it or is it not, Emma? I don't know. I'm not musical. All right, I adore each of you. Bye-bye, farewell. Thanks for coming. You're all wonderful. I heart you. Heart you, Nicole. Heart you, Anna. Yeah.
I have a TV show suggestion.